I'm very lucky to have you. I love you.
I love you.
Christian's passivity is its own form of communication. His silence tells Danny what he refuses to say out loud. His indecision keeps everyone around him stuck, and by the end of the film, his indecisiveness is exactly what leaves him with no choice at all.
You can't speak, you can't move, all right? Good.
Welcome to another episode of Pexposure. I'm Pecky, and I love to psychoanalyze myself through the characters I watch in film and TV, using my background in psychology and communication. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of my episodes.
It's in his tone, like you can hear it in his voice. He's just working up the nerve to say something.
The first thing we learn about Christian is that he's been wanting to break up with Danny, but he's been putting off actually doing it. His friends know it, and Danny can feel it too, but Christian just stays frozen.
You have got to get off the fence with this.
He waits, complains, and lets the relationship continue because ending it would require him to become the person who caused pain directly. Plus, there's that moment where he says,
"What if I regret it later and I can't get her back?"
You don't want her back.
I might.
He's staying because leaving feels too final, and he doesn't want to deal with the guilt if he regrets it later. Then Danny loses her family. After that, everything becomes more complicated. The film cuts to 6 months later, where Danny is lying on her bed and Christian comes in and says he's gonna go to a party instead of actually just inviting her to go.
I was just going to go to that party for 45 minutes, but you just keep sleeping.
Oh, come with you.
Sure you've had enough sleep?
Basically alluding to the fact that he wants her to stay home. I'm sure he wanted to have a night where he didn't have to feel like he had to take care of Danny. But from what we see in how he treats Danny, especially later at the festival, he kind of just does what he has to do to not feel guilty. Breaking up with someone after a tragedy like that would feel cruel. On a human level, I understand why Christian can feel stuck, but the issue is that he doesn't truly stay either. He's there so obviously out of obligation, and it's his fault for being in this situation to begin with because he put off breaking up with Danny for so long. And that's where the damage really starts to build. He's too scared to say or do what he actually wants. Christian doesn't want to be cruel, which almost makes him more frustrating. His damage comes from what he withholds. He keeps avoiding the truth until the truth becomes Danny's burden to carry. That's what passive communication can do. It places the emotional labor on the other person. Instead of saying what he feels, Christian makes Danny sense it, question it, interpret it, and then feel guilty for reacting to it. He gets to avoid the discomfort of honesty while she gets trapped in the anxiety of uncertainty.
It was just really weird.
What was?
The Sweden. I had no idea.
Well, what do you mean? Because I told you I wanted to go.
But I didn't know you were going.
I just decided today.
You already have a ticket.
I'm sorry.
Christian clearly had no plans of inviting Danny to Sweden.
I mean, that's if we even go. I'm probably not gonna go.
If Danny never overheard them talking about the trip at the party, I wonder when he would have even told her. The conversation plays out in a way where Christian acts like he's being attacked for wanting to go to Sweden and having his ticket already, when all Danny is trying to do is just communicate with him.
I'm just trying to understand.
She's asking a pretty reasonable question, which is, why is your boyfriend planning a major trip without telling her?
I mean, that's if we even go.
And that conversation ends with him reluctantly asking Danny to come to Sweden because he feels guilty. Instead of saying what he actually feels, he stays avoidant again.
She's not actually gonna come, but I invited her, just to not make it weird. I invited her, and she accepted, but she's not actually coming this week.
He doesn't lead his life with intention. He adjusts to whatever confrontation is closest.
Guys, I'm gonna wait for Danny, so you just go ahead.
We can't take them at different times. They'll be totally separate trips.
You wanna wait for us then?
Christian very clearly doesn't want to wait for Danny to do the mushrooms. He lets Danny be the one to say,
You know what? It's fine. It's fine.
Babe,
I'm ready.
instead of making that decision himself. Whether it's peer pressure, wanting to do what his friends are doing, or fear of looking selfish, the bottom line is that he's so passive he doesn't even have to own that decision himself. This shows up again with Josh and the thesis, which I find fascinating because this is where you see that this kind of behavior exists outside of just his relationship with Danny.
I've been thinking a lot about my thesis, and I've decided I'm gonna do it here on Horga. And I wanted to tell you first, just so it didn't seem like I wasn't telling you.
Christian doesn't have a strong idea of his own, so he attaches himself to Josh's. He sees a path forming and steps onto it. When Josh gets upset, Christian acts like the conflict appeared out of nowhere.
Well, I mean, you knew I was going to want to do this.
No?
Oh my God.
I mean,
Christian,
did you even know until just now?
Of course you did. Okay.
Christian keeps trying to avoid the role of the bad guy, but avoiding responsibility just makes the damage harder to name. From a psychology perspective, Christian feels like someone who has learned to survive through avoidance. He delays hard conversations, minimizes conflict until it grows, then he withdraws. And the dangerous part is that avoidance can feel like temporary peace when you're the person doing it.
Do you think that there is a masochistic part of you that is playing out this particular drama to avoid the work you actually need to be doing?
You tell yourself you're preventing conflict or that the timing isn't right. You can even tell yourself that you're trying to be kind by not saying the thing that will hurt someone. But avoidance doesn't erase conflict. It usually just moves it into another person's body. Danny carries the anxiety Christian refuses to name. Josh carries the resentment Christian refuses to address. The group carries the awkwardness Christian keeps creating because he just can't be direct. Everywhere Christian goes, his silence creates more tension than honesty would have. Danny is vulnerable because she's grieving and isolated. She needs to be held by people who don't flinch from her pain. Christian is vulnerable because he has no real center. He's used to taking the easiest available path and letting situations carry him instead of deciding where he stands. The Harga are very good at moving people who drift. That's the dark turn of Christian's arc. He begins the movie as someone who avoids making choices. By the end, choice has been taken from him completely. That's why the final image of him paralyzed feels so pointed. Christian has spent the movie avoiding action, and then he becomes physically unable to act. The scene earlier with Maya is one of the clearest examples of this. Danny experiences it as betrayal, and emotionally we understand her shock. But what happens to Christian isn't simple either. He's drugged and pushed through a ritual that serves the community. That doesn't erase the pain he caused Danny before this point, but it does complicate the idea that his ending is just punishment. By then, Christian has become useful to the Harga. His weakness becomes part of their plan.
Well, these are the candidates for the 9th and final offering. We patiently wait your verdict.
He can't explain or defend himself, and he can't run away. The passivity that defined him becomes literal. On one level, Christian has failed her over and over. He's left her emotionally alone since the beginning of the movie. The Harga offers her the opposite experience. They make her pain feel shared instead of inconvenient. For someone as isolated as Danny, that's powerful, but it's also terrifying. The Harga capture Danny. They give her belonging, but only after cutting her off from the outside world and turning her grief toward purpose. Christian becomes the perfect final sacrifice because he's already been positioned as the person who hurt her, and he becomes the obvious option for Danny to choose. Christian deserved to lose Danny. He deserved to be confronted with the harm caused by his avoidance, and he deserved the consequences of staying with someone he refused to fully love. But did he deserve to die? I mean, did any of the outsiders deserve their deaths? Midsommar is often talked about as a revenge fantasy, and Ari Aster himself has described it that way. But to me, it's more disturbing than that. It gives us someone flawed, makes us angry at him, then asks how far that anger can go before it becomes something else. Christian is destroyed by a pattern. He keeps choosing whatever delays discomfort in the moment, and every delay makes him weaker. He avoids honesty and accountability, and eventually the world around him chooses for him. Christian is a warning about what happens when passivity becomes a way of life. He shows how refusing to decide can still become a decision, how avoidance can hurt people even when it doesn't look aggressive, and how dangerous it is to keep waiting for circumstances to release you from the responsibility of being honest. And this is where I find myself psychoanalyzing not just Christian, but the part of all of us that has probably done some version of this. Staying too long because leaving feels mean, waiting for the right time to tell the truth even when the right time is really just code for a time when it won't cost us anything, and hoping a situation resolves itself so we don't have to be the one who changes it. It reminds me of that moment in the bell jar, where Esther imagines her life like a fig tree, with every possible future hanging in front of her. And because she can't choose one, she imagines them all starting to rot. At some point, not choosing starts to destroy the possibility. That's what happens to Christian in a much darker, more literal way. He keeps avoiding everything until eventually there's no open future left for him. Christian's story is extreme. Most people will never end up in a cult ritual in Sweden, hopefully. But the communication failure part is recognizable. It's what happens when someone thinks silence will protect them from consequences, then learns too late that silence has been communicating the whole time. The movie turns his central weakness into his final condition. I'm a huge fan of Midsommar. I watched it twice when it came out in theaters, and as a photographer, I'm obsessed with the camera work, especially during the maypole dance. The sets are incredible. I love the whole premise, and the ending track, Fire Temple, is one of my all-time favorite instrumental tracks. So I would love to know what you think. Do you see Christian as just the bad boyfriend, or do you think there's something more fear-based happening underneath all of that avoidance?
Thanks for the psychoanalysis.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in another video soon. Bye!